Hi everyone, trust you all are doing well. So in this one, what we're going to do is we're going to set up our tag model, and we're going to set up our tags migration file, and as well as create a Taggables migration file. All right. So let's get started. So go to App Models, and we'll have our tag model. Right. So let's quickly set it up. So the first thing that we always going to need is to indicate which table it is. So in this case, we're going to set up a tags table, and then we're going to do a protected table, and that's going to equal to self table. Okay, so there's now our tags table. The next thing that we're going to need is we're going to need our fillable fields. Right, and the fields that we're going to need, let's just go to the browser quickly. Right, so our tags table is basically going to have a name, it's going to have an image and a slug. Because what we will do is we will save the path to the image for that corresponding tag in the database so that we can actually work with it. So if we go to a post by tag, so that we can actually display whatever image is needed. So in this case, the DACO one, so the slug will be there and all that kind of stuff. Now, as you can see, we've got a description as well for our tag, so we're going to add that field in as well. So let's do that. Right, so the fillable fields, the first one will be name, slug, image, let's just put it image. This is just for mass assignment. And the last one, this one will be description. Okay. So if you don't want to do a protected fillable, you can do a protected guarded, and you can just set this basically to an empty array. But the thing is, when you do this, you have to take all the necessary precautions to make sure that the data you want to put in the database is actually what you want to put in there. All right. So make sure you put in validation and don't use request, all that kind of stuff. Right. But for me, I'm just going to stick to protected fillable. Right. So the next thing we want to do is we want to create public function, and this one is going to be get route key name. Now the reason for this is we're just going to return a slug string of slug. Now the reason for this is by default Laravel for the key name uses the ID on the model. Okay, so let me just quickly open the web browser. I just want to explain this. Just open the web. Right. Now, normally what would have happened is, let's say we got the users, and then we can add another field with curly braces. We can add users, and then we can add slug like this. Now, by default, if we leave it empty, Laravel will fill in this field with basically the ID as the route key name. But if you want to add something different, you add the slug in here, and it will actually use the slug. But now, instead of having to specify the slug like this, right, for the tags, we will actually specify. We don't want the ID to be there. We want to use the slug. So I don't have to specify in here slug like this. Okay. But that's obviously now for the users. It will be different for the tags because this will only do it for the tags. Okay. Right. So I'm just using it as an example for the users, but it's not for. Right, enough of that. Next thing we want to do is those public function. This one is going to be for the ID, and it's going to be an integer. And then we just want to return this ID. So let me just, the next one is basically going to be for the name. This is going to be a string. Just basically return this. Okay, so what it does is just basically when we call in this method, we'll basically return that. So I'm just going to copy that one down twice. This will be for the slug. And this is going to be for the description. Right, so now we got our model all set up. So we got our fillable fields, we got the table, we got the IDs and all the methods for the relevant properties in the database. So let me just get this another one here. This is basically image path. It's going to be a string, and then just going to return the image like this. Okay, and then we've got our right key name for the tags. All right, so that you must use the slug and not the ID. So I don't have to specify in our web file right here. I don't have to specify. Let me just say this is tags like this. I don't have to specify the slug like this. It will automatically use it and stuff. Okay, just delete that. Right, so that's it for our model. The next thing that we want to do is we want to set up our migrations. We go to database, migrations. Let's go to our tags, migrations right there. All right, so there's obviously a couple of fields that we need to fill in here. So the first one is going to be a string. This is going to be for the name. Right, I want the name to be unique. All right, so I don't want the names to clash because we're going to create a slug from the name of the tag. This is going to be a string slug. Next one is going to be for the description. This is going to be just a text as well. Do a text, and this is going to be for the description. And this field is nullable. Right, so if there's no description, not needed. A table, and this one is going to be basically for the image, where it will be a string. This will be the image. This field is not nullable. Right, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4 fields, and if we go to our model, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 fields, just to make sure that those fields are in there. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is we need to create that polymorphic relationship tables, that Taggables table inside our database. So let's open up our terminal. Right, so let's do that. In order to do this, you type in PHP artisan make, you type in migration, and then we're just going to say create Taggables table. Press enter. As you can see, it created the table for us. So we go to database migrations. You would see we got our Taggables table right here. Okay, so the fields that we need in our table right here is basically the unique foreign ID of the tag. Okay, so that is going to be the tag ID. And this is basically going to be constrained to the tags table. All right, another field that we're going to need in here is basically to which tag this is linked to. Okay, so in this case, it might be, we're going to use a polymorphic relationship, and this is going to be taggable like this. So what this will do is we'll create two fields. It's going to create a taggable ID and a taggable type. All right, the type is just to indicate which model, and the ID is basically linking to the ID of that model. Right, so obviously in front here will not be mobs. This will be an integer, and this one right here will basically be a string field like this. Okay, so this is basically now our Taggables table all set up. Right, so what we will do in the next one is we're going to create a trade. Okay, so app trades right here. We're going to create a hashtags trade, where in order for the Taggables table. Okay, so if there's a post, we can link that tag to a hashtags, or if it's articles or whatever the case may be. So that's why we can use this polymorphic relationship for any model that we want to assign tags to. All right, so in the next one, what we will do is we're going to create a hashtag trait right here. All right, so that's it for me, guys. Thank you for watching, and if you like the video, please give a like, and adios.